I went to the doctor. I had this incredibly sharp pain in my stomach at the top, and it had been going on for months. After he examined me, he said, "Susan, are you upset or stressed about something? Is something abnormal going on in your life?" I said, "Dr. Sloan, I am stressed about everything. I suddenly realized that I am never going to get married unless I do something. I mean, I just thought that I would wake up one morning and I would be married. And now I'm 32 years old, and I'm going with somebody that I don't even want to be with, and my stomach really hurts." 6 months later, I broke up that relationship, and I met Charlie. I met Charlie at a restaurant, the Oyster Bar at the Plaza. I went with my coworker to lunch, and he knew Charlie. We were all in the advertising business. And Charlie came over to our table, and he introduced himself to me, and he asked me where I worked. And then when I got back to the office, he called, and he asked me out for a date for that night. I said, "I'm sorry, I have a date." He said, "Break it." I said, "No." And so we made a date for a few nights later. We went out to dinner and dancing, and in the wee hours of the morning, when he was dropping me off, he said, "Susan, won't you go to the Briarcliff with me to this convention in Virginia tomorrow?" I said, "No." The next day, the next evening actually, he called. And he said, "I have told everybody at this convention that I met the woman I'm going to marry." I hung up the phone and I said, "Gail, this guy, Charlie, is really crazy." I moved in with Charlie 6 months later, but I never stopped paying rent to Gail. And then 2 years later, Charlie still wanted to get married, but he said he didn't want to have any more children. He had a son, Robbie, from his first marriage, who was 10, and he said that was enough. Oh, I couldn't be with somebody that I said, "Charlie, you know, I can't, I want to have a family." This subject came up over and over again. And then we stopped talking about it, and it became very quiet between the two of us for a long time. One morning, going down to work, I dropped him off, and he said, "Susan, let's have lunch at the Japanese restaurant on 61st and Madison and talk about this business of family." I was a TV commercial producer, and I had some screenings that morning. And then when I got back to my desk, I called my mother. "Mother, I might be moving out from Charlie. I just can't, he doesn't want to have children, and I want so much to have a family. I know you love him, Mother. I love him too, but..." And just as I'm talking to her, they usher in this actress. The receptionist brings her in and sits her down. She had an appointment with me to try and get into commercials. But I carry on and I continue my conversation with my mother. And when I hang up, she said, "Wow, Susan, you are really having a terrible day." I said, "The worst." And I started to tell more about Charlie. I said, "You know, I finally want to get married, and he doesn't want to have children with me." She said, "Is he absolutely adamant about it?" I said, "Rigid." She said, "Is he Jewish?" I said, "Yeah, he's Jewish." She said, "Don't believe him." I said, "What do you mean, don't believe him?" She said, "Just on the other side of no is yes." Just I said, "Look, I didn't know that this lunch was coming up. Could you come see me tomorrow?" And I dash downstairs and I race up Madison Avenue, the 10 blocks, and the wind is blowing and tears are rolling down my eyes from the wind, and my face is flushed, and I burst into this restaurant, and there's Charlie. He's already started to eat. And I go over and I sit down and I order tea. "Susan, are you sure that's all you want is tea?" "Charlie, yeah, this is all I want because I want to talk to you. Look, Charlie, life is just a series of problems. That's all it is. One problem after the other. And at least children are important problems. And I can't imagine being with somebody who doesn't want to have children with me." slowly, neatly. He finishes his meal, he gets the check, we put on our coats, we walk out together onto the street. The sky is very gray. I tighten my scarf. We walk down to 57th and Madison. There's a red light. Charlie turns to me and he puts his hand on my cheeks and he says, "Will you marry me, kids and all?"